We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and I am just asking questions. And the question of the day is, when we play this clip of the majority whip during the 70s of the Conservative Party in the United Kingdom, is he alluding to or referencing former Prime Minister Edward, aka Ted Heath? Now, today I was looking for something to cover. I was going through my social media feed, and it's really not often that there's some kind of a raw historical clip that catches my attention that I have not seen in the past. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I've been doing this a really long time. I am a dork among dorks when it comes to old school documentary films, important admissions by political players, etc. I had never seen this. I was taken aback by it. All right, so I was so taken aback by it that when we play the clip, it's under a minute long. I'm probably going to play it uninterrupted, and then I'm going to break it down because what's said in here is so important, especially in an age when we want to talk about high-level political or media blackmail and beyond, when we're talking about Epstein and so many people talking about Diddy, etc. These days, this is a clip that shows the levels of blackmail out there and how blasé it is. I mean, in the clip, it's literally referenced as something that would be small level to most people. But again, depending on your lifestyle, how sociopathic you are, your financial situation, how in debt you might be. All right, and how you may be able to, or may be willing to bend your morals there. We all know that power can corrupt and people do things they normally wouldn't with financial incentives. Okay, but then just to go all the way into scandals involving small boys. Now, I did a little research on this clip, and allegedly it resurfaced a little over a decade ago. And I'm going to show you a Daily Mail article that actually references this and gets into other aspects of high-level UK British pedophilia allegations. We're going to get into, of course, Jimmy Savile. We're going to get into the relationships with the royal family, and we're going to go even beyond that. But I think the Daily Mail put out a piece in like 2014. And just like I said, number one, I'm a human being, right? I'm not a digital AI encyclopedia. I'm going to maybe misremember, forget things, get things wrong. But I have archived a lot in this little noggin of mine. And in that arena of, I don't know, after I did Shade the Motion Picture, which was released in 2013, to about 2017, there was a 3-4 year period where I was very much on the peripheral, where I was working other jobs outside of this arena, sometimes working 40, 60, maybe even 80 hours a week between them. So I did miss a lot. And I guess that this would be one of those things that I missed. Folks, before we get into the clip, and we're going to play it next, please consider supporting the broadcast. The Buy Me a Coffee and other links are down below. $5, $10, $15 means the world to me. And look, it's very tough to grow on YouTube, but we can grow kicking and screaming and crawling over on X for some reason, even though we have to pay to be a member. But that's also where you're going to find this clip in the raw. So if you just want to share this and maybe not the entire broadcast as something bite-sized that people can watch, you can do that very easily by following myself. And here it is right here. Here's that 2014 article, Westminster's Dirt Book, How Government Whips Covered Up MP Scandals Involving Small Boys in Exchange for Loyalty. All right, let's hit this clip, and then we're going to do the commentary on it and break it down one by one.
Anyone with any sense who was in trouble would come to the whips and tell them the truth and say, no, I'm in a jam. Can you help? It might be debt. It might be scandal involving small boys, or any kind of scandal which a member seemed likely to be mixed up in. They'd come and ask if we could help. And if we could, we did. And we would do everything we can, because we would store up brownie points. That sounds a pretty nasty reason, but it's one of the reasons. Is if we can get a chap out of trouble, then he'll do as we ask forevermore.
So, there's so much there. I mean, just look at this guy's face. This is Tim Fortescue. He's the whip from 70 to 73. And one of the reasons, before we play this again and recap it, and you can find that, is the huge overlap with Heath being the prime minister. Now, this scandal has been going on, at least in the public arena, for almost a decade now, as you can see. But before we get into some of those allegations, the main allegations, there's much more. And I'm going to show you how the well in that case may have been poisoned. Big shout out to David Icke. Say what you want about David Icke, and I have been critical in the past in certain arenas, certainly the lizard people thing that has burst through pop culture and popular vernacular now to just describe somebody who is so grotesque and a globalist. Just want to say that, right? Just putting that out there. So again, kudos to Ike. He was naming names of these people, including Heath, years ago. So again, I'm not telling you what to believe, because there are some people that are adamant that Heath it was a witch hunt and he got a raw deal. But I'm just going to read some of the allegations out there that made it into the mainstream arena. I mean, I want to say that Ike was putting this stuff out in the late 90s, if not 2000 at the latest, according to Heath. Okay, so the police report on claims that Sir Edward Heath sexually abused children he produced chronologically of 7 main allegations against him. Heath, who died in 2005, was prime minister between 1970 and 1974 and led the Conservative Party from 1965 until he was ousted by Margaret Thatcher in 75. Police said the allegations would have led Heath being interviewed under caution. None relate to his time as prime minister. All right, so all the allegations, take a look, right, are up to 67, and then it jumps to 76, Right? And I don't want to have to read all of them. It's pretty grotesque. I think that we're going to read the first one. Okay? Heath allegedly raped and incidentally assaulted an 11-year-old boy during a paid sexual encounter in private in a dwelling. At the time, Heath was MP for Bexley and Lord Privy Seal in Harold Macmillan's government, with responsibility for negotiating the UK's first attempt to join the European Economic Community. Now, I want you to think about that, if these allegations are true. And think about what this guy just said. We're going to play it again. But you get these guys, these people in pocket, and then they're going to do whatever you want. And again, it could be something smaller scale, just on debt. And he says if they have any common sense, they're just going to come clean, and we're going to protect them. And we're going to do everything we can to protect them. And like I said, I want to reiterate this, that goes back to 2017. Many have talked about it being a witch hunt. That's 2019, right? This is something I think that is really important, because we're going to get into Jimmy Savile in a second, his relationship to the royal family and those people. But the BBC, who protected Savile, they also hired a chauffeur service headed by a man with a conviction that included raping a child at gunpoint. He was used from the late 70s to 2006. Okay? Almost 30 years. All right? And yeah, he transported celebrities such as Jimmy Savile and Prime Minister Ted Heath. So that's an interesting read unto itself. And Operation Conifer, as of last year, this is in the UK Parliamentaries page right now, people are still calling for a hardcore investigation into this stuff. But when you're about narrative management, when you're about saving face in the party and how these politicians actually act, we're going to break this clip down again, start to finish, and what he says. All right, so let's start it up.
Anyone with any sense who was in trouble would come to the witness.
Anyone with any sense who was in trouble, they come on over. We're the gangsters. We're going to make it happen. You know, we make things go away.
And tell them the truth and say, no, I'm in a jam. Can you help?
So confess their sins. I need help. What can you do for me?
It might be debt. It might be scandal involving small boys.
Now, debt, you notice how he says that rather quickly, right? Because I'm sure they've compromised a lot of people financially. But you notice that while he's talking about the scandals with young boys, he's looking away and down. He's recalling something. And then as he comes up, he even cocks his eye up a bit. Let's bring it right here. We'll watch it again. Watch it again. Watch his demeanor.
Say, no, I'm in a jam. Can you help? It might be debt. It might be scandal involving small boys, or any kind of scandal which a member seemed likely to be mixed up in. They'd come and ask if we could help. And if we could, we did.
And if we could, we did. And now he's going to talk about how aggressively that happens.
And we would do everything we can, because we would store up brownie points. That sounds a pretty...
First of all, you notice how he's putting sugar on it. No, you're blackmailing them. It's not storing brownie points. You're blackmailing them. And he's like, oh, that doesn't sound good. He realized even that doesn't sound great, but his answer, after that isn't great either.
Pretty nasty reason, but it's one of the reasons.
Pretty nasty reason, but it's one of the reasons.
Says if we can get a chap out of trouble, then he'll do as we ask forevermore.
There it is right there. If we can get a chap out of trouble, he will do as we ask forevermore. more. Okay. So I talked about how a lot of this stuff has been put into question, right? And one of those cases is this person right here. All right. The Carl Beach case. And then there's, I think, this one, fantasist known as Nick. I think that's also Beach, Carl Beach, tells jury he first. So again, this sometimes you get somebody who gets thrown into the mix, and I'm not here to judge whether this person or others who have made accusations and then been thrown around are telling the truth or not. But if you can get somebody to poison the well with a story that can be disproven, all of a sudden you have this new plausible deniability arena. You know what's undeniable? That clip of a majority whip, a high-level politician telling you how it works in a cavalier manner, from low-level financial stuff to abusing children. To abusing children. How much has changed out there? Probably not as much as you would think. And let me say this. You know, when you look at somebody like Jimmy Savile, him and now King Charles, they were peanut butter and jelly. They were a bagel with cream cheese. You know what I'm saying? They were as tight as it gets. There are reports out there that Prince Charles wanted him to be the godfather of one of his sons. I mean, my goodness. And when you talk about Savile in particular, you're talking about not only a serial pedophile, but also somebody who allegedly raped women in hospices and corpses. The darkest stuff again, Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff from people that were worshipped in a celebritard culture. And I want to remind people also of this before we wrap this video up. And please thumbs it up, subscribe, share, check out the alt platforms, ring that bell. That this has been a long and storied history. Even the FBI, again, knew, but still worked with. And again, Lord Mountbatten is somebody who's promoted by globalism, given astute, powers, that he was bisexual with a penchant for young boys. In fact, they joked in there that he was known amongst his peers as Lord Mountbottom. Now, Mountbatten was actually blown up in a boat incident with, I believe a couple of his boat boys, at least one on board. I've done videos on Mountbatten in particular. Again, my little brain gets a little gray sometimes. I don't remember everything. But anybody can look this stuff up. You can actually see that FBI document. Can you imagine what else we have in the archives of the FBI and the CIA? Not just regarding politicians in Europe, but our politicians as well. My goodness gracious. My goodness gracious. All right, folks. That is going to be it for this video. We are going to wrap it up again. Folks, I couldn't do it without you. $5, $10, $15 does mean the world to me. Shout out to those that have been donating. Patty, Salty Savage, Eve, thank you so much. Wendy, Geneva, Big Hair, Tsunami, and others. Remember, I want you to check out the documentary films. They are free of charge. Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order to Find, and Shade the Motion Picture. Go follow me on X if you just want to share that short clip of that politician admitting to being a gangster-like evil human being. Please do that. Remember, to me, it is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. I absolutely love you guys, and we'll see you on the flip side.